I don't believe that love your neighbor means if they look like you, act like you, or do the things that you think they should. It means love your neighbor no matter what. So for me, just helping people be educated, knowing how HIV is transmitted, knowing that there are preventative measures out there and what preventative measures there are, and that if you are positive, Matthew 25 has got you. The love that we have there in that building and the care that we provide, there's nothing like it.
That was Angela Pope of Matthew 25. To most people, she's known as Angie. She, like most of her colleagues, is from Western Kentucky and devoted to supporting her community. Through a cooperative agreement with the CDC, Matthew 25 secured a mobile testing unit covering 10 counties where access to HIV and STI testing can be difficult, to say the least. Transportation is a huge barrier in this part of the U.S. and in many rural areas. Matthew 25 is a healthcare organization based in Western Kentucky and Southern Indiana. It was started in 1996 by Sydney Burton, a nurse at the time moved by her Christian faith and a call to service. The organization serves those who are at risk for, living with, or impacted by HIV and other STIs through comprehensive healthcare, education, and support, while fostering community partnerships to combat stigma and to improve overall healthcare and quality of life. And who am I? I'm Stephen Hicks with the STD HIV Prevention Training Center at Johns Hopkins, a CDC-funded regional training center within the national network of STD Clinical Prevention Training Centers, NNPTC. Thank you for listening.
So I have been with Matthew 25 almost 2 years. September will be 2 years. I started as prevention and education specialist. I really loved that role. And then I transferred to Indiana, Matthew 25, for a short time. And then in November, I took a role as Kentucky Prevention Education Coordinator. And I've been doing that since December on my own.
Okay.
So,
And what does a typical day look like for you?
oh, well, I don't think I have a typical day. So today is a work from home day. My work from home days is usually administrative duties. I usually try to do my one-on-ones with my team members on my work from home day. Policies is what I'm working on today. Policies and procedures, kind of updating them, reviewing them. I am an early bird, so I get to work at like 7:15 and we don't have to be there until 8. But I have it ingrained in my brain that to be early is to be on time, and to be on time is to be late. I'm at work early every day. I like that first few minutes to kind of read my emails and process day before's business, before it starts getting crazy. Um, with the mobile unit, some days I'm out in the mobile unit. Some days I am doing meetings inside of the facility, Teams meetings, a lot of paperwork, a lot of keeping up with data. We're still working on kind of getting June's HIV test in. We recently switched to the iPad from folders, physical folders. So Desmond and I have worked very, very diligently on trying to get all of the 2024 folders on up. I said yesterday, Anna and I were talking. I don't get to see a lot of the after results, as far as like after we tell somebody that they're positive. I don't see a whole lot of that. And I did get to sit through the community conversations meeting with Molly Tabor Friday, and kind of hear from our patients, kind of the barriers that they face. And so it was really good for me to see that side of it. Um, Typical days are just everywhere, really, for me. Like I said, I go every Friday to the jail. Some days I go and do education and testing. Some days I'm in meetings all day. So just depends on which day you ask me.
Okay. And then like in terms of the education, in terms of prevention, like can you like describe more about the program and how many people are working with you and even like some community partners, you know?
Okay. So my team members make up, I have myself and Swan. Swan is the Kentucky Prep Navigator for Henderson and Owensboro. Um, He is the only prevention member I have in Henderson. I have a prevention and education assistant in Owensboro at Anuke. She is simply amazing. I recommend everybody should get to know Adenuke. I have two team members in Bowling Green. I have Emerson, who is prevention and outreach assistant, and she's only been with us for 2 months. I'm super excited about her and kind of what she brings to the table. And then I have Megan, who is my prep navigator in Bowling Green. And she's another one. She's only been with me for a few months, and I'm super excited of what she brings to the table too. I think we all bring a little something different to the prevention team that makes for a very interesting dynamic and kind of. I'm a bit biased, but I think we have probably the best team at Matthew 25, and we have the most fun. Prevention is a lot of fun. You know, uh, I think that we all kind of bring something to the table. So, some of our community partners. So obviously, Henderson County Jail, Brightview. We're getting ready to partner with them with our mobile unit. We partner with a lot of the treatment centers. Warm is a big one. Mark in Bowling Green, Journey Pure in Bowling Green. We're trying to get into more jails. A lot of the jails were met with resistance, though. Webster County Jail is a big one that I really want to get into. I know how prominent the drug use is there, which makes me even more eager to want to get in those communities and test for HIV and hepatitis C. So, as far as the education goes, so for me, when I go into an education event, obviously the first thing I have to do is kind of gauge my audience. I tell my girls in Bowling Green who they're new to prevention, when you go into an education, you have to gauge that audience. And, as women, you have to be very careful. When you go to a jail or a treatment center, so Journey Pure, I'll use it as an example. So they're a 30-day treatment. So they are getting ready to go to that one. They just went to the women. Not to put differences between men and women, but there are differences. So they just did the women, and I told them, so when you go in with the men, you have to remember that you are women and you are standing up there in front of men that are in early recovery. So when I say early recovery, less than 30 days clean for most of them. So they typically do not have the same level of act right and respect as somebody in long-term recovery might. So you have to go into that education and walk that line of not crossing that line too much, because if you cross it too much, you're going to open that door of disrespect. But you got to walk that line enough that you can keep their short attention spans engaged and listening, and that sometimes can be very hard to do. It took certain levels of disrespect towards me for me to be able to learn this is how far I can go. I started at the jail, and he told me when I went in there, he said, "You talk to him however you need to." And I was like, "I don't know if you want to give me that permission, because I know how I can be ratchet sometimes. But so I had to learn, like with the ABCDs of prevention, abstinence, be faithful, condoms consistently, correctly, do not share needles or other sharp objects. So with my education, I have that A and that B and that C and that D, and I give them something that they can really remember each one by. So for A, you tell them abstinence doesn't work for everybody. For B, be faithful. Well, be faithful doesn't work if you don't know if your partner's being faithful. And I share a personal story that I went through, that even me working at Matthew 25 and being the education coordinator, I found myself in a situation where I was having to get tested every 3 months for HIV, because I didn't know that my partner at that time wasn't being faithful. So I try to make those things relatable. When you get to condoms consistently, correctly, that's when, I typically try to take an internal condom and a dental dam and kind of show them. I make it fun and I say, now listen, we're not about to have a demonstration. But do you know what this is? And I open it and show them and I let them see what it is. Because for me, I'm almost 47 years old. Until I started working at Matthew 25, I didn't know what a dental dam was. I didn't know what an internal condom was. Never seen one in my life. So, you want to give them something to remember by the do not share needles or other sharp objects. I'm a big advocate for recovery. So that's when I point out, does anybody know how long HIV can live in a syringe? I try to keep it fun and engaging. And I think that's kind of what we all try to do. Um, obviously, I would tailor that education for if it was a doctor or whatever. That's when I get really nervous, is when it's that type of setting. Put me in front of inmates and recovering addicts, and I can talk for days and stay engaged. But doctors, I'm sweating.
So when do you know, like when you're talking to an audience, when do you know that you have them captivated? When you're in your bag and you're like, okay, I'm doing my thing and I'm making that connection with the audience.
So usually in the first few minutes, when I go into the jails and treatment centers, I am very open about who I am. One of the things that's really important for me, I don't want to talk down to anybody. And I know certain times I have felt in my life when somebody comes in to speak to me, they're standing up there and they're on a different level than what I am. So I try to put myself on that same level.
Is there a difference in talking about HIV versus like other STIs or hepatitis C?
No. No,
Okay.
I mean, most of them, are fairly are engaged regardless. A lot of them don't want to hear about like symptoms. They don't want to hear that. But most of them, I think, by the time that you've gone through the HIV spill and then step over into the hepatitis C, they're already kind of prepared anyways.
And you were talking about the asset mapping tool.
Mhm.
How is that going? And can you explain a little bit more about the asset mapping tool?
Yes, so the asset mapping, so that is for our mobile unit. So our 10 counties are Henderson, Union, Webster, Davis, McLean, Ohio, Butler, Edmondson, Warren, and Barron. Um, so, Barron County, we had focused on kind of setting up with Barron County Health Department. We ended up finding out that Barron County Health Department was getting a mobile unit. So they got their mobile unit and then it came with more stuff on it than they were supposed to have. So they had to send it back. And then they sent it back to them. It still wasn't right. So we are partnering with Barron River Health Department. We have a Unity and Recovery event in September. So I will be driving the mobile unit to Bowling Green, which I'm scared to death about. That's a long drive in that mobile unit, but I did take it out for the first time to Owensboro for National HIV Testing Day. And it was the first time I actually drove it, aside from just a few minutes driving. And it wasn't too bad once I got it there. Now, when I got into Owensboro on those little roads, that was a little scary. But so we're kind of just working right now. I've recently got us into Morganfield, which is Union County. That's a big area I wanted to get into. So we initially said we were going to kind of take it slow on these 10 counties. We don't really do anything slow, even when we say we're going to. So, it's still a work in progress, but I do have the 10 counties kind of mapped out locations in each place that I want to reach out to or have reached out to. So it's coming along.
It sounds like it because you all are constantly growing, expanding, and doing all these great things. What are some of the I would say starting off like what are some of the successes, some of those things that you just like feel really proud about, but also like some of the challenges where you're like you're not there yet, but you're working on it.
So some of the challenges has been we were delayed in getting the mobile unit. And then when we did get it, there was some things that had to be fixed, changed. There was a chip in the window. And I don't know if you've stood up close to an RV window, but that thing is massively huge. And so there was a chip in the middle of it. So we had to wait for that to be repaired. So that delayed us. getting out on the road. So just some minor things that were really major, but could have been a lot worse, was one of the big challenges. I don't like to follow directions all the time, so policies and procedures had to be put in place first, and I had to be the one to do those. So that waiting game, I want what I want when I want it kind of person. I wanted to take that mobile unit out right then, and that's not the way it works. So that was a challenge. The jails have really been a challenge. So, as far as the successes for me getting into Union County and Webster County, getting into those areas that we don't go and test that already, um, you know, Union County, it's drug population is high there, um, and there's not, there's transportation is not great. So getting in places like that. So I'm super excited about it. That it, for me has been a big success, just the excitement that I've seen my team have, about this mobile unit and getting it out on the road. So we tested 84 people for National HIV Testing Day in Owensboro with the mobile unit. We tested 196 Matthew 25 wide. So that was fantastic. It was hot. Even inside that mobile unit, it was hot. I think at one point it was 92 degrees in the side that I was testing on, just because the heat index that day was so horrible. But we survived.
And because you're from the area and you're from from the region, what do you want for Western Kentucky? What do you want for the people that you were born and raised around, the people that know you? What do you want for that community or the various communities?
So I want them to be more educated. I want them to know the stigma surrounding HIV. I want them to know their status. Definitely reducing that stigma is so important. We don't live in a world now where HIV is as a death sentence, where Hep C is a death sentence. You can't look at people and know if they are positive or not. And we don't shame people that are. I'm very big on the um, love your neighbor aspect. I don't believe that love your neighbor means if they look like you, act like you, or do the things that you think they should. It means love your neighbor no matter what. So for me, just helping people be educated, knowing how HIV is transmitted, knowing that there are preventative measures out there and what preventative measures there are, and that if you are positive, Matthew 25 has got you. The love that we have there in that building and the care that we provide, there's nothing like it. So that's it for me. So I strive every day to go into situations and know that there is help for people, even when they don't feel like that they deserve that help. And that's my goal every day. You don't ever know what somebody's going through. Um, you know, Somebody could be going into the store to buy a pack of cigarettes to go home and take their life. And one kind word from somebody of, hey, how are you, can change that whole moment for them. So that's it for me. Just changing the world a little bit at a time.
Mhm. And thank you. There's this amazing, phenomenal power of grandmothers. So shout out to your
Yes.
grandmother and shout out to your daughters. What inspires you? What keeps you driven? What keeps you going every day? Whether it's like the hectic schedule on Sundays that get in the way of football, or like, yeah.
So, I have four kids, but I have three daughters. My first two kids, I didn't really raise on my own. My youngest two, I raised completely by myself. And they are amazing, caring, moms. I have 11 grandkids, by the way. I graduated college with my associates this past semester, and I'm returning for my bachelor's in August, in less than a month. Um, And my girls was there at my graduation. My mother, I've had a very strained relationship with most of my life, was at my graduation, and I am someone they can be proud of now. And they see me on the news. I was on the news for the mobile unit, and they were like, "That's my mom," That is one of my biggest motivators, probably out of all of everything. So,
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
welcome.
When it comes to Matthew 25, how would you describe the like the workplace culture? Because it seems like you all are a tight-knit group. You all get along, not just because you had guests, but it's just
Yeah.
like y'all just naturally seem to be gelled together. So how would you describe how you all work together and get
I
along?
think we all like I said about the prevention team, we all bring something different to the table. I think we all came into Matthew 25, and a lot of us not even knowing what Matthew 25 truly was. Um, and I think you have to have a heart for this job. I know certainly going into the jails, it's not everybody that can go into the jails and do what we do. And I think we all just bring something different to the table. But the one thing that is common denominator for all of us is the love that we have for what we do, wholeheartedly.
And I can see that.
Yeah.
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 There's
Yeah. We have our staff meetings, and I think we all complain when we have to go to these staff meetings. But at the end of the day, I remember when I started at Matthew 25, so you go into the NPR on your first day, if you're at Henderson, you go into the NPR and you have certain parts of management that comes in one at a time and you discuss it with them. And I remember sitting there my first day and I'm like, why can't you just let me meet everybody at once? Why do I have to do this one at a time and take my whole day up? But the reality is, it's an important part of knowing why this person and this person and this person individually comes together to make the whole robot of what Matthew 25 is. Love is just a common denominator.
Mhm. If you could give a shout out to one of your colleagues at Matthew 25, who would it be? Maybe your road dog or like your close comrade, who would that be?
Hmm. So that's hard because there's so many. So probably Anna. And I say that because June was a very hard month. And Anna is our COO. She is also my supervisor, my direct supervisor. Um, so June was a very difficult month, and I had to do a lot of stuffing of my emotions through the month of June because of being tired, and not really being able to appropriately compartmentalize my emotions the right way. Basically, Anna gave me a safe place to express my emotions, express my feelings, and not just express them, but work together to kind of find a common goal going forward of what is best for me. Because I think that what's best for one person may not be best for the next person. So Anna probably would definitely be at the top of my list. Courtney for sure. Um, I tell them all the time, I am not portrait wise. I am not the type of person that would be in the role that I'm in. I'm covered in tattoos. I have a tattoo right here that says bite me. So I'm not ideally that person that would be there, but I tell them all the time when I have interviews and they tell me, HR tells me they have no relevant experience, and I'm like, neither did I. And look, Um, so Courtney for sure. I think Courtney for kind of encouraging that diversiveness in us. And, Courtney takes pride in hiring the less hireable. And I love that about Matthew 25 and Courtney. So, and then Swan. Swan, I'd have a shout out for Swan every day. Swan motivates me in so many ways. Desmond too. That's hard. I feel like you really put me in a hard place there because I love everybody. I love all the people that I just love everybody.
That's a
No.
good problem, right? It's a good
Yeah.
thing.
Yes, absolutely. I can handle those problems.
And I didn't say it, but I want to say it now. Congratulations on getting your associates.
Thank you.
What advice would you give to someone who comes across Matthew 25 and thinks that they don't stand a chance in joining the team? What would you say to encourage them to like continue with the process to see if they can come on board?
Be honest, be you. We are not a judgmental place at all. Um, my tattoos was my biggest insecurity when I came to Matthew 25.